The crowd inside the Grand Theater buzzed with anticipation. Cameras were set, lights glared off the polished stage floor, and the air was thick with the hum of a live global broadcast. Tonight's special event was billed as a conversation between legends, and for weeks, fans had been talking about it. Clint Eastwood, an icon of Hollywood's golden age, would sit down with Keanu Reeves, the modern-day figure of humility and quiet strength. It was supposed to be a respectful meeting of two eras, a celebration of storytelling and a shared love for cinema. But Keanu could already feel something was off.
Ow.
The energy backstage was tense, not the usual pre-show jitters.
Ow.
Crew members whispered to each other, and more than once, he caught quick glances in his direction. It wasn't hostility, more like concern. Still, Keanu brushed it off. This was Clint Eastwood, a man he respected deeply. Whatever happened tonight, he would meet it with calm and respect. As the opening music played, the audience roared. Clint walked out first, his iconic squint and slow stride earning a standing ovation. Moments later, Keanu followed, his easy smile met with equal applause. They shook hands at center stage, a firm clasp between two men who had weathered decades in a relentless industry. At first, conversation flowed, as expected memories of old sets. Reflections on how Hollywood had changed, lighthearted jokes that made the audience laugh. But about 15 minutes in, Clint leaned forward, his voice low but sharp enough to carry. "Keanu," he said, "you've built a career on kindness, people like you. But some of us wonder if you've gone too soft for this business. Careful, too. Safe." The audience reacted with a soft murmur. Keanu's expression didn't change. "I think there's nothing weak about kindness, Clint. It's harder to be kind in a cruel world than it is to be cruel." Clint gave a half smile that didn't reach his eyes. Maybe kindness is a shield. Maybe it keeps you from telling the hard truths. Keanu tilted his head slightly. Truth without kindness is just cruelty wearing a mask. I don't see the point in that. There was a subtle shift in the crowd. Some leaned forward, sensing something real was unfolding. Others looked between the two men, unsure if they were watching friendly debate or the beginning of a public clash. Clint leaned back in his chair, his voice dropping even lower. "Let's talk about your recent interviews, Colbert, Bradley Stokes. You've been making waves, talking about hope, about faith, about things this industry usually avoids. Do you know what that does, don't you? It puts a target on your back. You keep walking into the fire, and you're going to get burned." Keanu met his gaze steadily. "Then let me burn. Better that than be cold and silent when people need to hear something that matters." A few people in the audience clapped quietly, but most remained silent. Caught in the tension, Clint's eyes narrowed slightly. But there was something else there too, a flicker of curiosity, maybe even respect. "So you're not going to back down, even if it costs you roles, money, influence?" "I've already decided what matters most," Keanu said softly. "And it's not money. It's not power. It's being able to look someone in the eyes and know I didn't lie to them." The silence in the theater was heavy now. Cameras zoomed in on their faces, capturing every flicker of emotion. Finally, Clint sat back, letting out a slow breath. "See if that conviction holds when the heat really turns up." Keanu gave a small nod. "We will." The audience didn't know it yet, but this wasn't just a tense moment between two Hollywood legends. It was the spark of a confrontation that would spill far beyond the stage drawing and powerful figures, igniting fierce debates across the world, forcing both men to decide how far they were willing to go for what they believed. This was only the beginning. The next morning, clips of the tense exchange between Keanu Reeves and Clint Eastwood flooded social media. Headlines screamed everything from "Keanu schools Clint on kindness" to "Clint calls out Keanu for playing it safe." The internet split into camps, some praising Keanu's calm strength, others siding with Clint's old-school bluntness. Keanu's longtime assistant scrolled through her phone with a frown. "This isn't just trending, it's exploding. Half the networks want you for follow-up interviews. The other half are tearing you apart." Keanu sat at the kitchen table, sipping tea. "That's not new, Marla. People have been divided since I started speaking more openly. The question is, what do we do now? Before Marla could answer, her phone buzzed again. She read the message, her brow furrowing deeper. This is strange. A producer from a primetime debate show just invited you and Clint back on live television next week. They're calling it round 2. Keanu gave a faint smile.
Sounds like they
Want to fight? Exactly, Marla said, setting her phone down. They'll bait you both. Try to get sparks flying for ratings. And if you say anything that can be twisted, they'll twist it. And I'll just tell the truth, Keanu replied simply. But beneath the calm, he knew this was dangerous territory. The first exchange had been organic to men with different perspectives, finding themselves in a moment of real tension. This next one would be a set piece designed for spectacle. Over the next few days, the media storm only grew. Podcasts debated whether Keanu's version of kindness was too naive for the real world. Opinion pieces praised Clint for speaking hard truths or condemned him for mocking hope. Even late-night comedians began weaving the moment into their monologues. Then, 3 nights before the scheduled round 2, Keanu received a private call. The voice on the other end was deep, measured, and unfamiliar. Mr. Reeves, I'll get to the point. There are powerful people who don't want this conversation to continue on either side. If you go on that show, you won't just be debating Clint Eastwood. You'll be walking into something neither of you controls. My advice? Cancel. Keanu's grip on the phone tightened slightly. And if I don't, then you'll see, the man said, and hung up. Marla's face went pale when he told her. Keanu, this isn't just internet noise anymore. This feels organized. He nodded slowly. Yeah, which means we're not just talking about opinions. We're stepping on something bigger. Still, the decision was already made in his mind. And going. And if Clint's going to, maybe. We'll both find out what we're really dealing with. What Keanu didn't know was that Clint had also gotten a call that night, different voice, same warning. And in his quiet, weathered way, Clint had answered almost the same. I'll be there. Neither man knew it yet. But the stage was being set for a live broadcast that wouldn't just shock the audience, it would send ripples far beyond Hollywood. This was only the beginning. The night of round 2 arrived with an electricity that could be felt long before the cameras rolled. The network had been relentless in hyping the event trailers with dramatic music, split-screen shots of Clint Eastwood's steely gaze, and Keanu Reeves' calm expression and taglines like 2 icons, 1 stage. No script. Keanu arrived at the studio with Marla at his side. The lobby was swarming with reporters, their voices blending into a wall of noise as they shouted questions. He gave no answers, just polite nods, and kept walking. Inside the green room, the atmosphere was tense. A producer briefed him on the format, which was little more than a thinly veiled promise that the host would stir the pot 10 minutes before showtime. There was a knock at the door. Clint walked in, wearing that same unreadable expression he'd had the first time they met.
Oh.
They shook hands, firm, but not warm. You ready for this? Clint asked, his voice low. Ready as I'll ever be, Keanu replied. You, Clint, gave a slow nod. Let's just see where it goes. The stage was massive, lit by harsh spotlights. The audience roared as the host introduced them both, playing up the clash of philosophies between the old-school toughness of Clint and Wald. The quiet resilience of Keanu. At first, the questions were pointed but civil. The host asked about their careers, their views on the film industry, their definitions of strength. Then, as expected, the conversation turned. Keanu, the host said with a smirk, last time you said truth without kindness is just cruelty. Wearing a mask? Clint, you've been quoted saying kindness without truth is useless. Sounds like one of you is wrong. The crowd murmured in anticipation. Keanu glanced at Clint. I don't think we're as far apart as people think. Truth matters. But so does how you deliver it. If you smash someone with truth without care, you're not helping, you're just breaking them further. Clint leaned forward, his voice steady but sharper. And if you wrap truth in too much softness, people stop taking it seriously. Sometimes they need to be hit hard to wake up. The host grinned, sensing the tension. So which is it, gentle words or hard hits? Keanu didn't look at the host, he looked at Clint. It depends on what you want to win the argument or to help the person. The crowd erupted in a mix of applause and whistles. Clint's jaw tightened. Before he could respond, the host cut in. "Gentlemen, let me ask you something neither of you knew was coming." He held up a card. "We reached out to someone who says both of you are wrong. She's here tonight." A side door opened, and a woman in her 50s walked out, her face drawn but determined. She introduced herself as Maria, a former military officer and now a crisis counselor. "I've seen people at their breaking point," she said. "Sometimes they need truth. Sometimes they need kindness. But most of all, they need someone who won't walk away, no matter how ugly it gets." The room went silent. Keanu and Clint both listened without interrupting, as she told a harrowing story of saving a young soldier from taking his own life by. Refusing to leave his side for 16 hours straight, you can argue about methods all day, Maria said. But if you're not willing to stay in the fire with someone, your words don't mean a thing. The host seemed flustered, clearly not expecting her to speak so powerfully. Clint broke the silence first. "She's right." Keanu nodded completely. It was a rare moment of agreement, and the audience could feel it. The tension shifted, not gone, but transformed into something heavier. It's more real. What no one knew was that while the cameras stayed on the stage, two men in the control booth were already making calls. Maria's presence hadn't been in the original plan. And now, both Keanu and Clint had unknowingly stepped into a much bigger and far more dangerous game. This was only the beginning. The show ended with polite applause and the host's scripted farewell, but backstage the atmosphere was anything but polite. Maria was quickly surrounded by two producers, their smiles tight and voices low. They ushered her toward a side hallway, away from the rest of the crew. Keanu noticed. So did Clint. "I'll catch up," Keanu told Marla, slipping away before security could block him. He followed at a distance, just far enough to hear the edge in one of the producers' voices. "That wasn't what we discussed, Maria," the man said. "You were supposed to stick to the questions we gave you. You've thrown the whole segment off." Maria didn't flinch. "I told the truth. If that's a problem, maybe your questions weren't worth asking." The other producer's tone hardened. "You don't understand how this works. You embarrass people tonight. And when you embarrass the wrong people, they make sure you don't get invited back anywhere." Keanu stepped forward then, his voice calm but carrying enough weight to make both producers freeze. "Or maybe the problem isn't what she said, it's that you weren't ready for something real to happen on your stage." One producer tried to recover his composure. "Mr. Reeves, this is none of your concern." "It is now," Keanu said simply. Clint appeared behind him, hands in his pockets, his presence alone enough to make the two men exchange uneasy glances. "Funny thing about truth," Clint drawled. "Once it's out, it's real hard to stuff it back in the bag." The producers muttered something about scheduling and walked off, leaving Maria standing there with a mix of gratitude and unease in her eyes. "Thank you," she said quietly. "But you should know. They're not the only ones who want me quiet. I've been speaking up in other places, and people higher up than them don't like it." Keanu studied her for a moment. "Who's higher up?" She shook her head. "People you can't see until they want you to." Later that night, in the small lounge of the hotel, Keanu and Clint sat across from each other for the first real conversation they'd ever had without cameras or an audience. "You believe her?" Clint asked. "Every word," Keanu said. "And if what she's saying is true, then we've both been stepping into something a lot bigger than a few heated interviews." Clint leaned back, eyes narrowing in thought. "I've been around a long time, Reeves. Long enough to know when something smells wrong. And this stinks from the top." Marla joined them, her phone in hand. "We're both trending again, but this time, so is Maria. Clips of her speech are going viral. People are calling her the voice of the night." But she hesitated, glancing between them. There's already a smear campaign starting against her. Posts, articles, even fake accounts pretending to be her, twisting her words. Keanu felt that now familiar weight settle in his chest. They're going to try to erase her. Clint's voice was low, but there was steel in it. Then we don't let them. Neither of them knew it yet, but within 48 hours, the smear campaign wouldn't just target Maria would come after all three of them. And the attack wouldn't stop at reputations. This was only the beginning. The first blow landed the next morning. Marla burst into Keanu's hotel room, laptop in hand, her face tight with urgency. "You need to see this." She spun the screen toward him. A headline from a major online outlet blared, "Keanu Reeves linked to dangerous activist network." The article was long, loaded with unnamed sources, grainy photos taken out of context, and insinuations that Keanu, Clint, Maria were part of some radical movement bent on destabilizing the industry. Keanu scrolled slowly, his jaw tightening. "None of this is true." "Doesn't matter," Marla said. "The point isn't to tell the truth. It's to make people doubt you." It's already spreading. Within hours, other outlets picked it up. Television pundits ran segments, questioning Keanu's recent behavior, splicing clips of his walkouts and speeches into montages designed to make him look unhinged. Clint was framed as an aging actor, drawn into reckless disputes, and Maria was painted as an opportunist seeking fame.
How?
Clint called Keanu directly. "They're not just hitting us, they're trying to turn the public against us before we even speak again." Keanu could hear the edge in his voice. "You think this is just about shutting us up?" "No," Clint said. "This is about warning anyone else who might think about doing what we're doing." Maria, however, was taking the brunt of it. She called later that day, her voice trembling. "It's not just the media now. I've been getting threats. People have found my address. They've called my family." Keanu's voice softened. "You're not alone in this. We'll figure out a way to protect you." That evening, the three of them met in a quiet, dimly lit diner on the edge of the city. Clint slid into the booth beside Keanu, Maria across from them, her hands wrapped around a mug of untouched coffee. "We can't fight this by staying reactive," Clint said. "We need to get ahead of it, speak before they can twist anything else." "And say what?" Maria asked. "They're already calling me a liar. They'll just do the same to you." Keanu leaned forward, his tone steady but resolute. "Then we don't just tell them, we show them. No scripts, no edits. We go live. We speak directly to the people. Let them see our faces, hear our voices, with no middleman." Marla, who had joined them quietly, shook her head. "That's risky. If they want to discredit you, they'll find a way to hijack it or worse." Clint's eyes narrowed. "Worse?" "Look at what they've already done," Marla said. "If you go live and really hit a nerve, they might decide you're more than just inconvenient." There was a long silence. Finally, Keanu spoke. "If we back down now, we're proving them right. I'd rather stand and take the hit than live knowing I stayed silent." Maria nodded slowly. "Me too." Clint gave a small, approving smile. "Guess that makes three of us." But none of them realized the depth of the storm they were about to walk into. Because as they left the diner that night, a black sedan with tinted windows pulled away from a side street, its driver speaking into a phone. "They're moving forward," the man said. "Prepare the stage." The next confrontation wouldn't just be about words. It would be a public ambush broadcast to millions, designed to destroy them in real time. This was only the beginning asterisk. The live broadcast was set for a Friday night, prime time, on one of the biggest networks in the world. The promotion was relentless trailers, online ads, even countdown clocks on news sites. It was billed as an unfiltered conversation featuring Keanu Reeves, Clint Eastwood, and Maria facing the public to address the controversy. But Keanu, Clint, and Maria all knew this wasn't about clarity. It was about control. Marla paced the dressing room, her phone pressed to her ear. "Security just told me there's an unusual amount of crew we don't recognize tonight," she whispered, covering the mic. "I don't like this." Keanu sat quietly, hands resting on his knees. "We knew it could be a setup." Maria stood by the mirror, her reflection steady, but her eyes revealing the tension beneath. "Then we don't let them own the moment. No matter what happens, we speak our truth." When the lights came up and the cameras went live, the studio audience was already restless. The host wasted no time, launching into a recap of the controversy, painting them all as dangerous voices stirring division. Carefully selected clips played on the giant screen behind them, each cut to frame their words in the worst possible light. Keanu sat still, letting the montage finish. Clint leaned forward, Eyes sharp, jaw set, Maria clasped her hands in her lap. Finally, the host turned to Keanu. "Mr. Reeves, the world is watching. Are you prepared to admit that your words have caused unnecessary chaos?" Keanu leaned into his mic. "If telling people they matter causes chaos, then maybe the world needs more of it." A ripple went through the audience. The host pivoted to Clint. "And you, Matt, do you stand by every heated thing you've said?" Clint's voice was gravelly but unshaken. "I stand by speaking my mind. The day we're afraid to say what we believe is the day we stop being free." Maria's turn came last. "You've been accused of exaggerating your experiences to make a point." The host pressed. Maria met his gaze without blinking. "Every word I've spoken is the truth. And if you think my story is too much, maybe it's because you've never had to live it." The host, visibly unsettled by her composure, tried to cut her off, but Keanu spoke over him. "This isn't about us. It's about the fact that there are people out there tonight who feel invisible, unheard, and hopeless. We're here to say they're not alone, no matter who tries to silence that." Applause began in the back of the room, small at first, then spreading until it filled the studio. The host tried to regain control, but the audience was on its feet. And then, in a move no one could have scripted, Clint stood and stepped forward to the edge of the stage. "You can twist our words all you want," he said, "but you can't make us stop. Not tonight, not ever." Keanu rose beside him. Maria joined them. All three stood together under the blinding lights, not as celebrities or public figures, as people refusing to bow. The feed went out, moments later, cut abruptly to a commercial. Later, the network claimed it was a technical glitch. But the moment had already been captured by audience members on their phones. And within hours, the footage was everywhere. By the next morning, the walk-off wasn't just news, it was a rallying point. People around the world shared the clip with captions like "Truth won't be silenced and stand anyway," and as Keanu watched the sunrise from his balcony, phone buzzing with messages from strangers, he knew the fight wasn't over. But something had shifted. They hadn't just survived the ambush, they turned it into something the world couldn't. Ignorethus was only the beginning.